Women's Super League summer transfer window. There's a couple teams kind of making some impressive moves, and we're gonna chat about a few of them here. Time for me, but I think we need to start, Cupo, here with this pretty big transfer in Olivia Smith, breaking records.
Big is not the word, okay? This like shakes the table, changes the global just mercado for women's football all in. I am shook. I'm like, oh, we're in the seven digits. Okay. This is insane. And the fact that it wasn't Chelsea that did it is kind of shocking to me too. But like, hey, go on. Come on, you Gunners. She's got creativity. She's young, she's scrappy, she's really talented. This is super exciting. This kind of changes a lot of things. But the fact that Liverpool were like, okay, yeah, we can part with her is also insane. Like I would have gripped tight too. So fantastic early piece of transfer market business, in my opinion. Beattie, what do you think about this Liv Smith deal?
I mean, for that price tag for a young player, can I also just say was huge. Normally that kind of price tag has gone to like a, very established older senior player. So to see that kind of price tag go to like a 20-year-old was, I think, an even bigger statement. But no, she was absolutely incredible in the FA Cup when they knocked out Arsenal. Like she was up against Katie McCabe and just did so well. So no, and that's what you have to do when you're at a lower league team ranked in the tier. When you play against the higher teams, you got to perform, and that's what she did. She stood out by a country mile, and they've obviously signed Taylor Hines as well. So it's obviously been quite a fair business between Arsenal and Liverpool. But no, she's an awesome talent, and look, that's exactly the kind of depth that I think Arsenal probably needed. Now they're very stacked in the forward line with Chloe Kelly, Beth Mead, and Alessia Russo in the front line. So there's multiple one-on-one players, but I think they still needed more depth in that front line because you never know injury-wise and what can happen. But big price tag, young player, and now she needs to live up to it, right? Now it's the pressure. Now you've got that name tag. But I think you're right in terms of business with Liverpool. What they can do with that money now will go far. And that's the thing with women's football. You can really buy a couple of players now with that kind of price of bringing it in.
So buy a second midfield.
Yeah, that's the hard thing about letting go of your best player. When they're seen with that kind of price tag is hard. Is obviously too hard to say no to.
So Arsenal's a team on the move, making moves. I mean, we're leading with them in this segment for a reason. But it also, I mean, we're coming off of this just talking about the Euro final and the things that we're going to see there. And we've seen Michelle Agyemang do incredible things for the Lionesses. And I think that presents that question. Does a player like this coming off of this incredible tournament, does that mean she stays at Arsenal? Or does it just mean that her star and her stock is that much brighter, Kelley?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be about, right now she's filling a role for the Lionesses of coming off the bench, being a game changer, playing those 15 minutes of the final 90 and then, playing extra time because they've had to play a lot of extra time. And she's done incredibly well, right? She has saved this England side a couple times, which is crazy. But now, getting back into club season, it'll be about, can she do this? And can she be that type of player, a 90-minute player? Can she be a starter and still be putting up these goals and these magical moments and creating in the way that she is? And that remains to be seen. But I think that, if Agyemang, you're coming off of an incredible, no matter how the final goes, you're going into this season with a lot of confidence, and hopefully that she can bring to the Arsenal side and build on that and, go from being a game changer to potentially being a consistent starter. She has a lot of competition in that forward line, like Jen touched on. But then the other question is, does a team try to snatch her up and get her on their side? So I'm really excited to just watch how this plays out because she has been such a fantastic player to watch this Euros.
Cupo, we know you've got a particular rooting interest in Arsenal. What do you want to see them do? Do you want
to because they're Gunners' feet above my head? Is that it? Is that the tell?
It's a little tip.
You're a bigger fan than me, Cupo.
I won't flip the camera around and show you like the little signed kit that I have that was gifted from the squad, but whatever. No, I think that Arsenal, we have seen a lot of youth come through there and they've been super talented. We have seen some slip through their fingers and it's been unfortunate. You see them flip around the other side and you're like, damn, they're so good. What happened? And I would be remiss if Agyemang ended up being a player like that. But with that being said, it speaks to, are we looking for Arsenal to add another depth component when you've already made a big transfer in sort of this attack? And I guess that would be the yes there, right? Because we can't assume that Agyemang, who has put in an excellent bit of work this Euros, would slot in as a starter. But I feel like that could be the catalyst for some good friendly competition where you get maybe a little bit more productivity out of some key players that we usually rely on to be the main primary shooters. I don't know. Beattie, do you think there is any world in which they just let her go entirely, or we just maybe see her go out on another loan at like worst case scenario?
Yeah, this is the thing with young player. I can't see them letting her go. I think the fans would be absolutely gutted now that she's kind of like, I read somewhere that her actual name means savior of the nation, like Agyemang. Like, it's just how you can't let her go. You just can't. So I don't think we'll see that happening. But whether ultimately, look, we've touched on it already. There's so much competition in Arsenal's front line, and we've seen her fulfill the role of what she's doing. But in order for these young players to go get minutes and really develop their game with what they need to week in, week out, I could potentially see both sides. Whether I don't think they'll sell her, whether they put her out on another loan, I think that might be more likely just so she can get the game minutes, and I think she'll understand that as well. But I don't think they'll let her go. I think she's been absolutely phenomenal. I was academy ambassador in my last couple of years at Arsenal, and she was a kid in the academy, and not just the talent, she had the humility, intelligence, like just incredible. And so to see her go on and do what she's doing now, she's just deserves it all the talent, but the attitude, everything to go along with it.
Can you imagine the headline? Like, Arsenal lets savior of the nation go. Like,
damn, bro. My takeaway is my parents named me wrong. I needed more job security in my name. Like, Christine is not adequate.
Yeah.
Like, we could have done better, people. We could have done better.
Jeez. Come on, parents. It always falls back on them. All right. Arsenal's not the only team making moves and making headlines. No. Speaking of Lionesses, we got to talk about London City Lionesses because they are making some pretty interesting moves. They got promoted. They're like, we got to get right for making this promotion count. They went ahead and got Danielle Van de Donk, then Nikita Paris as well. Maybe this isn't too surprising when we're looking at some of the resources that are coming into this team and who they're being poured into by. Because Michele Kang, this is one of the Michele Kang teams, and Michele Kang typically gets a team and wants to make moves and make sure that these teams are in positions to succeed. And Kelley, you know a little bit about that.
Yeah, I definitely do. Whenever Michele Kang comes up, I'm like, she means business. I remember when we sat in a little DC restaurant and she had a conversation with me about, her aspirations and her reason for getting into or wanting to own the Spirit. And, not just that, she wanted to be global. And you can see that she follows through on what she says she's going to do. And London City Lionesses is an example of that. And the moves that they've made in this offseason, them getting promoted and then some of these signings just shows that she means business. And when she says she's going to do something, she does it. And I think that if I'm any of the other WSL clubs, I'm looking at this and being like, we got to keep an eye on London City because I think that they're putting together a very strong squad.
100%. I think they're doing exactly what Crystal Palace didn't. Like they're putting hands in their pocket, and the one I think they're going for experience. They already had Kosas Lani, Sophia Jakobsen, but bringing in players like Danielle Van de Donk and Nikita Paris who know the league so well. Danielle Van de Donk obviously had a really long spell at Arsenal. Nikita Paris, Arsenal, Man United, now Brighton. Like, she's been at a lot of clubs, so they know the league, and I think that's why I love that. Right, they've gone down. She's gone down very much. No, we're doing this and we're doing it properly, and going for experience. So I 100% agree with Kelley. They're going to be the team where everyone's going to look at and almost not know what to expect as well. Right, they're new in the league. You don't have anything to go off last season. Yeah, they were playing season below. So with teams already in league and make big signings, you can kind of get a judge of how they're going to improve or be better. But when they're new in the league and signing all these signings, no one knows to expect. So they're for sure one of the teams to watch. They're chasing a title.
To Jen's point, Cupo, like that narrative has always kind of existed for Women's Super League. Like we had made some running jokes and last campaign about it. I was like over here making a bold prediction. I'm like, come on, Crystal Palace, like give me that one win. And they just like.
I think, not that I want to be the A3 wet blanket of the day for this transfer market, but I think that when we look at everything holistically, like former consultant Brian, okay, like me and Michelle Kang came from the same world, oddly enough. She is a brilliant businesswoman, and what she's doing and pulling these levers for London City Lionesses, for Washington Spirit, for Lyon, is all of the right business moves and investments. And it's what teams should be doing, right? But when we look at the broader conversations that we've had here about parity in WSL, how do we improve competition levels? How do we see all of these teams thrive? They're tied to their men's sides. When the men's sides fail, the first women to take a hit are the women. So how do we fix this? And then you look at somebody like a Crystal Palace who get promoted and don't have the investment or support behind them to actually thrive in a first division team. And I think that with that, the extra fold now is we're starting to see, and what we look back to the last transfer window, and Girma was the biggest transfer story, right? That was a record breaking, and now we're into 7-digit transfer fees. So I think we're starting to steer very quickly into a lot of precarious waters that we're seeing in the men's game, where how do you maintain and keep up that spending when there already is this conversation existed in this ecosystem about how do we compete? How do we even compete? But now you have powerhouses like Chelsea, Arsenal getting in the mix, Liverpool, which will certainly be a talking point, and you still have that whole bottom to mid part of the table that are going to be fighting for their lives. So I think it's going to be interesting what we see change in terms of the women's football landscape as we move forward from this, because this is just the start.
Yeah, they don't look or feel like just your kind of regular, like recently promoted squad. Michelle Kang is making sure that people understand that around this team. So I'm very excited to see what other moves might still happen or how they're going to compete once the season does gear up. But Arsenal, London City, not the only teams making moves. Jen, Man City's making some moves as well. They got a pretty good one here in Monveni. I was wondering if you could let the people know to watch out for this player.
Yeah, no, so first of all, just to get Sydney Lohman in the chat as well, top player from Bayern Munich, midfielder for doesn't get as many minutes for Germany, but I still think her physicality will work really well in the WSL. And then for me, I remember watching Switzerland early on in the group games and thinking, who is this kid, Iman Benet? I'd never heard of her, ignorantly from my perspective. She was 18, but suddenly was just performing at outside back. And I was like literally thinking, I think I was watching one of the first or second group games thinking big club's going to get her up. Obviously looked on Instagram, who's done it? Man City. So that for me, she stood out by a country mile. I think at 18 to kind of be performing on a big stage at a Euro for Switzerland, host country, you had the whole nation behind you, but she was not just her work rate, getting up and down from box to box, but her technical ability, defensive attributes. She's pretty slight in nature, but still super strong. And for me, I was like, okay, that is an awesome signing for Man City. I was very, very excited to watch her in the WSL because she's still so young. She's got a huge career ahead of her, but she stood out massively for me for Switzerland. So Iman Benet, watch out.